Welcome back to Midnight Grappler Animals. I'm your host, Salt and Bank, and I have with me my other co-host, Keigen. I have no cute little Jeopardy style intro that Lan does. He's very good at those, but those don't dawn on me quite so easily. They're quite a challenge. So sound off in the comments. Tell Lan how much you appreciate him for that.
Imagine if he comes up with them on the spot every time, you know?
I think he does. It's pretty impressive.
What a mind he has.
Yeah. We are doing an experimental new feature today that we are temporarily calling Canceled Comics Cavalcade. We might make this a series, we might not. But we took a look at a 2016 documentary called Neil Gaiman, Dream Dangerously. This is a documentary that follows Neil Gaiman on a signing tour. It's a US signing tour and a UK signing tour. The director of this film is named Patrick Meany. He originally started doing comics, like documentaries on comics creators through an organization called, I believe it's pronounced Sequarts. Have you heard of this group?
Oh, I didn't know it was through that. I might be confusing two different things though. Sequarts?
What's Sequarts to you?
No, this is a different thing. I was thinking of a different totally unrelated thing.
Got it. Well, the Sequarts that worked with Patrick Meany is some kind of cultural organization that wants to bring comics to the forefront, and I don't know who exactly he worked with first, or which director he did a hagiography about, as it were. But he did one about Grant Morrison, Talking with Gods, and he did Warren Ellis, Capturing Ghosts, and then he sort of seemed to segue into more mainstream filmmaking. But even though it's not on Letterboxd, he did do one that was something like women in comics. And that's
yeah, she makes
ironic.
Comics?
Yeah, she makes comics. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, he did. Oh, and the Image Revolution. That was the other one.
Yeah, he's a big nerd. That was my takeaway. I Googled him and I was like, this dude's a big ass nerd. Which, like, it makes sense if Sequarts was going, hey, we need somebody to make, we're going to fund this. And it's like, well, yeah, I could also do that. Not that I could direct a movie, but like, I could go, these are the people who we should talk to, kind of thing.
Right. You need a super fan.
Yeah. You need somebody who's a big ass nerd. So shouts, he's a big ass nerd.
Cool. I saw the Grant Morrison one actually when it first debuted.
Shout! I think I've seen the Ellis one.
Okay,
but he's had a lot of weird little documentaries about him. He does have, we were talking a little bit before. He has within comics. I think his fandom was similar to the comics fandom for Gaiman. It didn't make that leap, but. And Morrison too. I think all three of them kind of have a similar insane fanish devotion around them.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to make excuses for anyone, really anyone, but I don't necessarily think having a cultish or insane fandom points to the artist or the subject of that fandom being as problematic as Gaiman.
Yeah, as evil.
However, as evil. Even though there's somewhat of a similarity with Ellis, but it's kind of a square rectangle square rule. I definitely think someone who is abusive will conscientiously try to conjure up that type of fandom.
Yeah, totally. And I think about this a lot. This actually, it's a lot of this. This was a nascent thought caused by Taylor Swift, actually, where it's the realization of like celebrity and artists are two different jobs. And right. You have to cultivate celebrity as a job just as much as you cultivate writer, musician as a job. And this documentary is perfect for that. Like, it is a perfect display of that separation and how you have to work at either one in order for it to be what, like, as big as you want it to be.
There is a Christ-like suffering in the Gaiman we see in this documentary. Like that really was impressed upon me more than almost anything else in this.
It's so annoying.
It's so horrible. It's like, dog, you're living the dream. You're getting all this adulation, all this adoration for books you've already sold. You get to meet the people who love you for your creativity, and you get to give them a signature to create some sort of bond. That there's nothing wrong with any of that. I think that's great. But the way he does it and the way his suffering is so pronounced throughout this film is maybe your first clue, if you know nothing else about Gaiman, that this man is a massive narcissist.
Yeah, no, absolutely. The narcissism is so perfectly on display. Which, like, even just from the beginning, it's like, this is my last signing tour. And it's like, do people do that? Is this a thing that, like, anyone does? Like, even a giant signing tour like this, already I'm just like, this feels weird. It feels like a weird thing that somebody just, like, takes, you know, months out of their working life to go and sign books, which he's incredibly famous and popular, so, like, the demand is there for that. But then there was a point in the movie where it's really accentuating how tough this vacation is on Neil Gaiman. And so they're like, it's really brutal on Neil, not a single day off between events. Okay, you made up the schedule, dude. Like, you okayed this. You could have had weekends off or whatever, or like Wednesdays off. I don't understand. Not a single day off between events. No, you had zero control. Okay, what idiot. And then the ice buckets. Like, every 5 minutes, we see the staff at these events bringing out a bucket full of ice. In the beginning of the movie, they're like, oh, this blessed creature came up with this idea of putting ice in a bucket so that I could ice my poor arm after signing all day, which I'm sure is actually very strenuous, but he's a bitch, so shut up, Neil Gaiman. So then they pull out an ice bucket and he stuffs his hand in it, and he goes, oh, great. And then the next quote, so this is in order, it's like, it's really brutal on Neil, ice bucket comes out, and then Neil Gaiman says, for me, it's all about the people, just as the camera cut away from his arm being iced. I'm just like, shut the fuck up, dude. I'm done with you, man. He's such a whiny narcissist baby. Oh my god.
And for people listening, you know, I will recap the film, but I want you to understand, if you haven't seen this documentary, that is the bulk of what we're watching. The documentary follows a signing tour, and the signing tour footage is interspliced with interviews. There's a couple other pieces of footage we get, but that's mainly it. Like, I can't really summarize the movie in a sequential order that matters, because it's the US leg of the tour and the UK tour. We see the tour, we see interviews with people who talk about Neil. Like I said, there's a couple other things, but it's a weirdly sparse documentary in terms of how much of Neil's life you'll see.
Yeah.
And that's not even a condemnation of Neil or even the filmmaker itself. I think that was the choice to go with. But you are left with like, oh, that was it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, there's a little bit of stuff of you know, his philosophy around writing, and
Mm-hmm.
you know, how he, not even really how he rose to celebrity status. You know, it talks about Sandman being huge for comic writers, and then it kind of just says Good Omens is the reason he made the other leap. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
The rocketing, or as it were, or whatever verb you want to use for Gaiman achieving celebrity status, is accentuated by Neil himself admitting his propensity for lying. And that's kind of one of the central themes of this documentary. Like, Neil very proudly and brashly says he lied his way into a lot of important jobs in the beginning. When you watch that without the knowledge of what Gaiman would become, it's a little bit like, well, I mean, if you're lying to a big corporate monstrosity like Warner, I guess, like, that's not hurting anybody. But in hindsight, you know, he was lying to and manipulating all these women. You go, well, if he was lying to them and bragging about lying to various publishers, what else does a man like that lie about?
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. And I also think so. I'm reading the Shelley Bond wrote two, the third one's coming out, like autobiographies of her days in comics, basically. They're very wanky. I'm taking a very long time to read this first one. And I'll see if I end up reading all three. But it's also the thing of these people who he's talking about, like, they immediately talk about big corporate workers that he's lying to, right? Like you said, the Warner Brothers stuff. But it's like these people were working out of garages. Like, these editors, some of them that he called, the ones that he did pull the wool over, like Karen Berger, was working in like a second story converted home that they were using as an office. Like, it's okay, dude, whatever. You're the scald of the comics world, and you're manipulating reality to your whim. Okay, you creep.
It's so funny you mentioned Karen Berger, because watching this in hindsight, it's like this is the documentary that you would make if you knew someone's allegations were coming out, and Karen Berger explicitly calls him a pest.
Yeah,
that was
totally.
such a fourth wall moment.
Yeah. It's fun. Yeah, her parts are real good too. She gives a lot of good context to stuff.
Yeah. But no. For people listening, in case this hasn't been made clear already, we completely believe and support anyone who's gone on record about Gaiman.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that for my conscience. I'm saying that for context as well. And I'm also saying that because as we break down this documentary, we'll be talking about the various personalities that are interviewed. And I needed to say that because very few people interviewed in this said anything about Gaiman post article, like post 2024 when all this first started coming out.
Yeah.
I mean, the only one I saw, I'm not trying to ignore anyone's statements here, but the only one I was able to recognize was Colleen Duran. She did make a statement about Gaiman, and I understand that she has a very complex past with abuse, and I don't know exactly what she's said since, but her own statement was a little bit vague in certain ways. I'm trying to say that as judgment free as possible, but that really was profound to me, man. Like, how few people spoke up. And I did a little digging. We do a little digging around here. I got my shovel out. I jumped down into the Instagram mines, and they all still follow him. Like, everyone interviewed in this. And it's so weird, like, how maybe this is really common with these situations, but it feels like the PR strategy for everybody involved is don't look at it and maybe it'll go away.
Yeah. Which, I mean, cancellations are fake, right? Like, that's we've I think this would be, if this were more of a series, I think we'll get more into cancellations are fake, especially because we have no idea what the actual outcome of all of this as it pertains to Gaiman, how this is going to go, because it's still like relatively new. All the lawsuits and pieces are fresh this year or late last year. So, but I also think the other part of all of that, and again, not to like couch any statements or anything like that, but like, you know, we've already made a little bit of fun of Gaiman, but like he's a monster. He is genuinely an evil person, and like a broken person too. I think, you know, you go into that stuff and it's just like he is damaged, and not in a way that I feel bad about, but in a way that like the reality should be. He, you know, isn't seen and is treated for his horrible things and lives out his days in nothingness and alone, whatever. But like these conversations, always you want to try to be balanced too, in the way of like, some of the people he hurt were tricked, and his trickery was good, and that's why so many of these people liked him and still like him, because sometimes he was a genuinely nice person and stuff. And so that's also a thing. Just anytime discussing anything around survivors, it's this sort of thing of like, there's a reason they were tricked. You know, he has an amount of charisma and everything like that. So as much as we call him a narcissistic douchebag, that's also with we're aided by hindsight and knowing things. But yeah, it's crazy watching a documentary like this post allegations, because it's just like, man, your intent on this is not working at all.
And you hadn't read the article
right
prior to watching the film,
right? Yeah, I knew the allegations, but I didn't read the actual details until last night.
I have a lot of thoughts about this, but I wanted to start with you. Since you read the article immediately after, were there any particular moments or quotes in the film that struck you differently after watching and reading?
No, I mean, I think I already, having the context of knowing like, and I had seen a lot of the like direct quotes from the articles, right? So I knew some of the particulars of it. The only big thing that clicked afterwards, which I'm happy nobody really shared this stuff because it's not pertinent to supporting people, but like you were saying, you know, it doesn't, the movie doesn't get into his actual life really, right? It doesn't talk at all about his first wife. It doesn't explain anything about his children's situation, even though he talks about all of his children. It doesn't explain like the two marriages and everything like that. So the Scientology stuff was what like re-clicked a lot of this stuff, because that's crazy. His like childhood in Scientology is pretty fascinating, and like also relating all that back to his clear narcissism and mythologizing himself. And so that was the big thing that I think affected the documentary more, because I mean, obviously the horrible quotes right out the gate, in terms of like his horrible personality. Where is it? I reorganized things and lost it. The people who read Neil Gaiman books have better sex quote is horrible, but that's like the third thing said in the movie, and it's just like awful. It comes off as so bad.
The first thing said in the movie is, what do you want to be remembered as when all is said and done? Gaiman is asking that question himself. And to himself, he answers, I want to be remembered as someone who told good stories. And there's so much to unpack there, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's you know, there's this idea of, you know, him as the scald, you know, like his fascination with mythology really betrays his narcissism, because mythology is a word that has several meanings, several distinct meanings. And you can mythologize an event. You know, we can mythologize the murder of JFK. We can mythologize how when the first Star Wars film came out, and we can have different mythologies of these events. You can also have a myth of like, oh yeah, if you like different cleaning solutions, right? Like home remedies. And then there's also the myth of like cultural myths, you know, what the ancient Norse or the ancient Greeks believed. And for him, I think it's he seems to operate under working with that latter definition, but everything is really the former. Like he wants to build up a narrative around an event, and he's so obsessed with everything being grand. You know, like the story of Thor or whatever is less pertinent in what it says about what the Norse people believed, and for him it's all that grandiosity. I want to tell good stories. Like it's a banal banal. It's a banal quote too.
It's mostly funny because you corrected it.
Yeah.
The real boner on your part.
Yeah. But that's such an empty quote. It's like, yeah, of course, dude, you're an author. Like, no one wants to remember you for telling crummy stories.
Yeah. No, I also, I mean, this movie, and it's like any documentary, is always going to reframe reality in particular ways that the author wants to do, and that's fine. So, like, you know, somebody mentions Gaiman created his new mythology, and it was Sandman. People love Sandman. I have never read Sandman personally. It's not for any taste reasons. It was easier for me to read like Captain Marvel #4 than it was for me to read 80 issues of Sandman. That's basically the answer. But like, and that makes sense. But then it goes a step further where he's talking about writing Coraline and talking about how, I developed Coraline off of my daughter's ideas. And then the novel he was releasing, whatever, boy, the ocean at the end of the lane or whatever, and talking about I think this was actually from an interview I read, but he developed that idea off of feelings he had when he was a young boy, but not necessarily things that happened when he was a young boy. And then turning out that like maybe some of those things did happen to him. And just the self-mythologizing, this like he's turning his own experiences into like stories, which is fine, but he also wants to turn it into more celebrity, clearly. Right. He wants to turn it into something that more people know about, and more people know about him, and more people will love him, and he'll be cooler and more popular. And like, that's the vibe of all of this documentary. Anytime it talks about his work and he relates it to himself, it's about, making his life good and making people get joy out of his life. And like on top of that, people enjoy his stories. Again, I think I've only read like short stories from him that are included in anthologies. Not that I was avoiding him for any reason. He just wasn't writing as much when I was getting into comics. And it's just like, not even to say he's not a talented writer, not even to say he didn't earn his celebrity through like good work, but just the intent wasn't only to make good work. It was also, I want people to see me more. And like, that's also just like sad. That's like sad.
Oh, I mean, everything you said there's a profoundness to that really captures like what's wrong with this man and what this documentary is trying to achieve. But, I don't think the director was able to do that. Again, that's not me making any assessments about his skill level. It's dependent on like what is Gaiman willing to share and how much can you successfully break through that facade, because everything you're saying is coming down to like, this is a man who needs to be loved, and all of his moves he makes are about being more loved. But that's like a two-pronged statement. Like, there is a certain amount of love we need in our childhood and our personal lives as adults, and then there's needing some impossible amount of love, this like empty void that your your soul has become will need. And for him, it's what's so striking is like what a repressed man he is. You know, when we talk about repressed men broadly, what many of us are referring to are guys who don't know how to express themselves very well either, and they so outwardly don't know how to get their needs met. Gaiman is someone who appears very put together. He is one of the most repressed men I've ever seen, but it doesn't hit you right away because he has so successfully cultivated that soft boy persona.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
The punk rock phase they talk about in this movie.
So
like,
funny.
You know, he did so funny.
Oh.
He decides he's going to become this punk rocker, and he almost takes a certain joy in like how much he sucked. And you know, that could be funny from a certain person, but from him it's almost like dismissive. It's like, this is so easy, anyone could do it.
Oh yeah.
But then he gets hit in the head with the beer can and he just stops. And it's like, well, actually, maybe it's not that easy, because I go see a lot of punk shows, Mr. Gaiman. And if those guys got hit, or gals, you know, I see a lot of different people. If they got hit in the head with a beer can, they'd probably 86 that guy. They might get his ass beat, but they're not going to quit because they got hit.
Yeah.
That sucks, dude.
The punk phase is very funny. It's very pathetic. Like it shows very much his like obsession with aesthetics, which is fine. Again, I think there's depth to his stories. Probably if it's somebody I know, I like people who I love and respect love the Sandman stories. So like I'm really not. I just haven't read it. But like, one, his obsession with aesthetics and the appearance being very important to him, like and his repressed everything makes sense. But I also think it really shows how much fame was a driver for what he wanted. It wasn't just expressing himself. It wasn't just doing art. He wanted to be seen as much as possible. And his first foray into an artistic life was, I want to be on stage and I'm going to be the singer, of course. And so like that was also where that like the fame versus artist thing, it started immediately in this movie with him, just where his entire driving force is trying to be that, and also, you know, almost certainly the goal was to leverage as much money as possible out of that fame too. Which, it's just the punk stuff is perfect for that. And I would love to enter Grant Morrison's mind and think in their thoughts about Gaiman's punk phase, because that's hilarious to me.
Grant Morrison said a very similar quote about the punk band Grant Morrison was in.
Okay.
But the
Kindred spirits.
Well, I mean, we joke a lot about Morrison, but Morrison's worst offense that I know of, the drugging of Frank Quietly, that sucks. I find that reprehensible, but that's nowhere near the scale of Gaiman's crimes.
No, kind of an unproblematic fave. Yeah.
Right. But what I was going to say about Morrison's punk quote is what makes it distinct from Gaiman's is there's an admiration in, and I'm not going to pull up the exact quote, but the way I recall it is he says, they say, with punk, it's usually a few chords you put together, and a lot of people, when they start out, they really suck, but that's not why you're watching the music. You're watching because there's an enjoyment for and excitement for being on stage. And I'm really paraphrasing there, but there's a certain admiration for the artist beyond like that weird "I'm better than this" quote that Gaiman has.
Yeah, I need to do something with Chidi real quick. Give me like 5 seconds.
Take your time.
I left the door cracked and he couldn't open it. He was freaking out. Yeah, dummy. Just push it. Anyway, um, the punk stuff. I have another note on the punk stuff, I think. No, actually, do you want to just jump into Grant Morrison then?
I want to
Just a
return to
little bit.
Grant.
Or okay, go ahead.
No. Let's do Grant Morrison now. I know what I'm gonna mention next.
Okay.
What did you want to say about Grant Morrison?
Mentioning Grant Morrison,
who does
the
pop
Morrison
up several
stuff
times
is-
in this documentary.
It's really funny. The first time,
Yeah.
I was really hoping the first time was going to be the only time they popped up because it would be so funny. It was like the most worthless quote in the whole thing, where they're just like, "Oh yeah, I was at Vertigo at the same time as them," and then that was it. It was like.
Also, Grant Morrison is intensely uncomfortable on camera for whatever
Time,
like
every time. Did he just drop acid or something? Like, what's going on?
They're doing a real pee-pee dance every time. I'm not saying they had to pee, but like if I had to pee and I was on camera, that's how I would look.
That might be the explanation. It could be. It's very funny. And yeah,
maybe they simply had to pee. To which I'm sorry that this filmmaker held you up.
yeah. No, yeah. That just mentioning them, then just that like made me laugh so hard. I like paused the movie when that first quote. I was just like, this is why they even keep it. Like, it's not. It has no substance. In that moment, it literally was just like, yeah. We worked together when we both entered at the same time. That was it. It was great.
Do you know the quote that Grant Morrison gave in Rolling Stone a while ago about comics creators sleeping with fans?
No, I don't. I don't think I saw that at all.
It's pertinent to this movie.
Okay.
So I remember reading this when it first came out, and it's definitely over 5 years old, maybe even a decade old or more. So it predates any sort of Neil Gaiman allegations. The interviewer asks Grant Morrison, were there actual comic book groupies? Morrison responds, yeah, I didn't do anything with them. I was always very nice with them. There were people in the business who were fucking every girl in sight. I just couldn't do that. I love the little girlness and the whole idea that they were really bright and they read Batman and Robin, or they read Death from the Endless. Pause. It meant something to them, and you don't want to ruin that and make them think that the guys that do this stuff are sleazebags and mess up their lives. There's amazing, smart, beautiful girls, but I never had anything to do with it. We'd go out and dance for a while, things like that, but then I just put them in a taxi and say, have a nice time. It's very peculiar that Morrison mentions Death from the Endless, no?
Yeah.
Very weird.
Yeah, it feels pointed. Maybe it's not. Maybe Death was. You're right. This movie goes out of its way to talk about the huge, ridiculous, insane success that Sandman was. So if you were around that and you saw people cosplaying as Death, and you saw the lines for Gaiman of people who were like, "That's my favorite," and that's a super hot chick, like all that stuff, it makes sense that would stick in Morrison's mind. Plus, the mythologizing, generally speaking, around Vertigo is a whole thing too, which they both were part of, and they both. So, I mean, still insane though. Still absolutely like, what a thing to say to Rolling Stone. Oh,
yeah, I mean, I don't think Morrison necessarily knew, but I think Morrison was noticing, like, oh wow, Gaiman's really using this as an opportunity to hook up with fans, and even that's not inherently wrong. Like, I think a lot of people become rock stars because they like getting laid. Yeah, as long as it's consensual, hey, good for you.
Yeah, no, I was thinking about that as you were saying that quote with the punk rock thing, and I think all of these, celebrities using their celebrity to manipulate situations to have a lot of sex is it's a weird conversation, because there's so many people who will be like, well, yeah, duh, right? Like, that's what they do, and as you approach a rock star and you're horny, you're likely to get to have sex. Like, that's how that works. But like, yeah, I mean, it just goes in with the, it's kind of pedocon theory, right? Like on a certain level, when you reach a certain amount of power, normal sex is just not the thing anymore. And you need to push those boundaries more and more. And like, yeah, it's going to lead to rape and then to pedophilia. Like it's basically proven at this point. Like,
yeah. Well, and that's a guarantee when you have an unhinged personality like Gaiman. And you get the feeling with the interview footage you see here that, I mean, this is just my own theory, but you have all these young women throwing themselves at him, right? I know he's getting a certain amount of excitement with the interactions themselves and the adoration and the physical contact. But my theory is that the only ones that he really like sought out, the ones he wanted to like take to a bar, take to his place or whatever, are the ones who maybe had that a little more reined in. They look like they had their lives together, like some of them are just like completely throwing themselves at you. You see the one woman who goes nonverbal, right? Like I don't think that's the kind of woman that he was going after. I think it was a woman who liked him, but was like clearly was a little more put together. Someone whose boundaries he could push. Like that's clearly the excitement for him based on what we glean from that article.
Yeah, totally. I think also the there's no safe word article from I don't even know where it was originally posted.
Vulture, actually. Maybe?
Vulture definitely has it as well, but I feel like I don't know. Anyway, it's like, the 8 who came forward, I don't think all of them were even, I mean, it doesn't talk about if they were fans of his, but they were all like workers adjacent to him.
Right.
And it's like, how many others would come forward? We don't know. We can't say, there's hundreds. We have no idea is the answer. We know there's 8 who have allegations. But like, yeah, no, I think that goes to support exactly what you're saying. He wasn't manipulating the fangirls, really. Which, that goes more into the narcissism almost. That it's like, it has to be about me and my power and my like, ability to do that, my coercive ability. I don't know. But it does bring to mind, like, all of that conversation brings to mind the Ellis stuff, the Ellis allegations, because so many of us, the collective of people who have been targeted and manipulated by Warren Ellis, author, is just a huge, like, incredible amount of work to put into attempting to help a creative person, an artist, like, make right. And I mean, you couldn't possibly expect a group of women, a group of people to group together in this way for anyone other than a like massively successful mythological level artist. And but I can imagine something like this for Gaiman, but it's also tough because it's like, yeah, like you said, there's so much that it's just hard to see. I don't know. It's hard to know how much of it with his rock star status gets brushed away as just a weird night.
Yeah. I want to go back to the mythologizing of vertigo you talked about, because I watched this with my girlfriend, and there was a part where she rolled her eyes so hard she had to say something, where it is closer to the beginning of the documentary. They're talking about how well Gaiman's books and the Sandman are selling, that suddenly you had women in the comic shop and at the conventions who weren't there only because their boyfriend was. Yeah. My girlfriend got so annoyed. She's like, oh yeah, because women never read comics before Sandman.
Yeah.
And that's more of the mythologizing that's beyond Gaiman itself, like that's the Vertigo mythologizing that every single comic before Sandman was aimed exclusively at men. Sure.
Yeah, all that stuff is stupid. And I mean, it's like, it's not the purview of the documentary, but it's also the kind of thing where what also was the shift in making women more comfortable in doing all of that stuff, right? And I mean, how much of that was just, it's the 90s now, like there's so many things, and giving it to Vertigo Sandman is very annoying. And yeah, I mean, people, the whole comic industry bends over backwards to talk about how great of a thing Vertigo was. It's annoying. It annoys me. Like, I don't know.
I want to also revisit the Scientology angle you mentioned from the article.
Of course.
It is this like weird emptiness at the center of Gaiman's life, and it's alluded to several times in this movie. Gaiman explicitly talks about how hurtful his childhood was. You see that there was something that went really wrong in his childhood, and he talks about how much he wishes things could have been differently. There's also a very strange interaction with this commemorative ceremony. There's a scene in England where a local township is commemorating a street sign, and the new street sign says "the ocean at the end of the lane," and it's, you know, to pay tribute to this book Gaiman wrote. There's a very blink and you miss it interaction where an old man at the signing event goes up to Neil, because Neil's mom and sister are there, and the old man says, "Your father would have loved this. He'd be so proud of you. You know, that man would always give a real walloping to anyone who would say anything anti-Semitic, or he didn't tolerate any anti-Semites." He says it's very like out of nowhere comment. And if I had watched this movie, you know, a decade ago when I really liked and respected Neil Gaiman, that wouldn't have struck me as odd, because Neil Gaiman had gone on record talking about having a Jewish background. But it's way more complex than that. My understanding is that his family is Jewish, going back several generations, but then his parents waylaid that and joined the Church of Scientology. And if my memory's correct, they didn't just join the Church of Scientology, they were in some kind of like propagandist or front-facing position to make, you know, materials to reach out to get more new members. So it's a very like strange, weird, layered interaction he has with that old man, especially with the way he reacts, where he's kind of going, yeah. He doesn't have anything to say to this fairly nice compliment.
Yeah. No, you're right about what they were doing, and like there was a point where his dad was very close to the leadership too. I think it was Hubbard at the time still, and you know, that all turns into this crazy situation where his parents were ousted from the religion and lost all the power and everything like that. And yeah, I mean, there's like there's obviously Scientology, so there's child abuse and weird, like extremely weird philosophy around kids are just adults in child bodies. So a lot of weirdness there. And I mean, yeah, even his entire treatment of Neil Gaiman's treatment of his own persona is so similar, because, you know, he gives you a great view into his real life. You know, everybody knows about his open relationship with Palmer, and he talks about his children, and he talks about he had children very young, and that was a good thing, and because he didn't know what he was doing, all that stuff, right? He gives you a great perfect picturesque view of his sleep schedule and everything, you know, that parasocial deliciousness that we all love. But we still don't like know much about before he was an adult. We don't know, and it feels so much like there's a facade, you know, that and you know, and this is all because also we know he's done horrible things to people, but it just feels so much like he's just hiding an emptiness and something that's in that emptiness, you know, that's something that like what's actually going on kind of thing. And yeah, the Scientology is definitely at the root of a good amount of this stuff.
Yeah, and it is really odd that he, as far as I can tell, never made any explicit references to Scientology in any interviews he did. Because I think he probably could have said something, and like, even if you look at it really cravenly, will this harm my career? I think just saying like, I was raised Scientologist and I'm not Scientologist now, like, it was an unconventional childhood. Like, I think people would really empathize with that, but he never spoke to that. And I think the fact that he never spoke to that does speak to the fact that he is kind of like Hubbard in certain ways. Like, these are religions, or Scientology is a religion with a very convoluted type of mythology behind it, as it were, right? And what makes Scientology different than, say, Christianity or Judaism, Islam, whatever, is we know who created it. And the reason I want to emphasize that so much is when I took a mythology class in college, like, that's what my professor emphasized. He said, he was actually talking about superheroes, because someone in the class asked, "Are superheroes modern mythology?" And he said, "No."
Smart cookie.
Well, this is in college, you're allowed
yeah,
to.
it's okay to ask that question.
Yeah, you're there to get the
learn
stupid
stuff.
beat out of you. Yeah. But he says, no, we know who made Superman and Batman and Spider-Man. Those are not myths. Those are corporate properties. What makes a myth, whether it's Jesus Christ or Odin, is we don't know who created these icons. These are passed down so far that you can't, there's no author attested to it. That's what makes a myth a myth. And I kept thinking about that with Gaiman's obsession with mythology, because he has the Hubbard version of mythology where he separates the myth from that anonymousness, that cultural connection. It does, his idea of myth is really all about the people doing the storytelling, not the fact that the story is so old we don't know who the people are.
Yeah, I wonder if this is a thing that even Hubbard thought of if I get enough people to tell this story, they'll forget that people were telling the story, kind of thing. You know what I mean? Like the whole thing of Spider-Man. We know who we can attribute the creation of Spider-Man to, but one day, if enough people contribute to Spider-Man, is it really Stan Lee and Steve Ditko who made Spider-Man? And I guess it's still Marvel that created Spider-Man.
I think the answer is what you just said, and it's a have it both ways kind of thing that at the same time doesn't entirely contradict itself. I think for Hubbard, he didn't necessarily need his name to be associated with the story of Zhenyu or whatever, right? But he does need the Church of Scientology little font TM to be associated with it, because that's why they sue people if you reproduce the materials without their permission, right? Like, it's the corporation. It's the corporation of Scientology does need to be remembered, and that's what makes it different than Christianity. And that's the same thing with Neil Gaiman. There's the Neil Gaiman the man, and there's the Neil Gaiman the myth.
Yeah, no, that's crazy. Scientology is one of those things that's just like, why do we let that happen? Like, that's crazy. I mean, and I know there's Christian fundamentalists that are horrifying and awful to children and just horrible. And I mean, there's even mainstream Christianity mega churches that are disgusting on a moral and ethical level. But like, Scientology just feels like when we could just be like, what? Like, why is this fine? It's crazy. It's so wild to me. And I think that might give some credence to some very minor credence to Gaiman, just because it's like, Scientology is really scary. Also, I'm a little scared saying anything about Scientology right now. Right. They're very powerful, very, very moneyed corporation. So I don't want that to be any kind of a statement on Gaiman. So I'm going to say he was a coward and he wanted to work with Tom Cruise. That's why he didn't say anything about Scientology.
Well, you know, he is a coward. And, you know, one thing I was thinking about with all these allegations we've heard is there's only one person on record who talked about him doing something more than like a decade ago. And I don't remember if she was a writer or an artist, but there's someone in comics who talked about him like forcing himself on her in the 1980s. So if I were to take the allegations at face value and say that there weren't any more, right? Just the ones we have.
Yeah.
Then there's this gap from the 1980s until like the mid 2010s. And the only reason I think about that is like, is this a guy who, you know, arguably was always a monster, but like got worse with age? Like, did the demons of Scientology and his weird childhood like
resurface?
Yeah. I guess that's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, no, that's a good way of teasing out the whole thing too. Yeah.
I have some various quotes from the documentary I want to read, and I just want to get your reactions to these.
Beautiful.
So we talked about the actress who said the best people to have sex with are the people who know about Neil Gaiman.
Awful. That's the first thing she says in the movie also. So every single other thing she said, I just braced. It's rough.
It gets worse. Like you think like, oh, that's awful. Like surely that's just that's a fluke. She couldn't say anything worse than that. One of the next quotes from her, she says, yeah, the fans of Neil Gaiman are just so attracted to him. They want to get to Neil because he has done something to their insides.
Oh.
Yeah, just disgusting, dude. Stomach turning.
Yeah, horrible.
We should actually mention like who is in this documentary. There's a guy named Michael Sheen. He's an actor.
Yeah.
Do you know who he is?
He's the lead vampire in the Volturi in the Twilight movies. Thank you very much. Martin Sheen shouts. He's also in 30 Rock. He's very funny in 30 Rock.
Yeah.
So those are two things I know him from.
We get Bill Hader, who is genuinely
Great.
very funny and
incredible. I can't like. Why did he meet them in a comic shop? Why did they do it in like just a generic comic shop? He's wearing a Los Pollos Hermanos shirt from Breaking Bad. Just generally looking disheveled, and he only says like one positive thing about Gaiman.
Yeah, you know, his interview is great because he's clowning on Gaiman the whole time.
No, actually, he has a really interesting quote where he says that Gaiman taught him to interact with fans more.
Yes,
which is like, oh no. That's
well, but I really liked Hader's response. Is like Hader's like, yeah, I don't really do that.
Yeah.
Not that it has to be a binary, but if it was interact with fans or don't interact with fans, you immediately see why don't interact with fans is the healthier option.
Yeah, absolutely. if nothing else besides for your own sanity, because like there's no way you can have a healthy ego. I like Kendra and I went to the Eras tour. We went to one of them, horrible seats, awful seats. She won like a lottery and got tickets for the base price though. And it's just like it's a massive stadium, you know. I don't know how many. I can't remember. I knew the day of. And it was just like looking around and seeing all of these people singing the song. There's no way that you have a healthy ego, and it makes you a dumber and worse person for sure. There's no way to be in the middle of a football stadium with people cheering your name and come away with it being a smart and balanced person. So yeah, Yeah, lock yourself away and don't interact with fans, please.
Well, and,
Please.
you know, I have plenty of criticisms of Taylor Swift, but she's not a rapist, right?
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
when you build a fandom that badly, we were opining earlier, like maybe Gaiman wasn't even sleeping with fans. You know, mostly people who work for him. I'm sure he was sleeping with some fans too, though, right?
Mhm.
But the point is, even if it was zero fans and just other types of people he interacted with, the fandom becomes a weapon. Like that fandom is what has shielded him from some more meaningful consequences.
Yeah. And I mean, I think that's on a social level, we can sit there and talk about how it's unethical. But I think on a personal level, it also makes him think he wasn't wrong.
Right.
You know, he thinks
so many people love me.
Right.
How could I be a monster?
Exactly. No. I have all of these times where I consensually slept with women that my wife knew about or didn't know about, and she was fine with for you know, because she is. So I'm fine. I'm in the right, obviously. And yeah, like all that stuff just breaks your brain in a way that should be studied more, probably.
There is an interview with his tour manager. I only mention her because I mentioned there was a lot of people who still follow him on Instagram. Like, just I kept thinking, surely one of these people, I'll find a post from when one of the big allegations articles dropped, and they'll say something, and there was nothing, and like nothing from Jill Thompson either. She's in it. Man, she has brain worms. I say that with sympathy. Like her Instagram was just all like Facebook resist lib slop. Like her art is barely on there. It's just like screen recordings of a Fox News segment that was shared on Facebook that then has like a caption on it. It's, you know, it's just like just garbage, you know. We mentioned Karen Berger calling him a pest. There's a few quotes from Gaiman himself I wanted to address. There's when he's talking about how much he loves myths. I wrote this down because it was so appalling. He says, I wanted to get my hands on myths and I was going to cram myths down their throats.
Ugh.
I know the violent physicality of that, like forcing myths on people. Myth from Gaiman as grand lie rather than something cultural.
Yeah.
Another quote from him is he says, "I get fetishistic about writing."
Yeah. Yeah.
That was so bizarre.
He was talking about the pens too.
Yeah.
Oh man, you just like you can't. It's unforced error, man. Like, you know what's going on in your life, my dude. You can't put this on film.
So weird. I know. Again, like it's like this is something that feels like you would release if you knew the allegations were coming.
Yeah.
And we're not even at the worst of it yet. There's a horrible. There's a fan who is so excited that they've interviewed him after he's gotten to talk to Gaiman, and maybe they interview him before as well. But he says the young fan says there's a recurring joke that comes up repeatedly in Sandman, and I wanted to ask Neil Gaiman, how do you want to die? And he said the line from Sandman. He said, being crushed at the moment of orgasm while surrounded by 4 nubile virgins. And he said it. And the
he said
kid
the thing.
is like
he said
jumping.
He dances
he's
around.
Jumping up and down while he says it. It is horrifying.
Yeah. Which, like, that's the kind of dumb bullshit I would have done if I was a Gaiman fan and I waited in line. I would have asked him that question and gotten excited about that answer. And so it's just like, damn, like fandom, man. Ugh.
Well, and I would have totally done the same thing. I mean,
for sure. That kid, nothing wrong with that kid. It's Gaiman being a weird freak.
And when you're however old that kid is, 19, let's say, you know, this idea of like, whoa, group sex, like very exciting, transgressive idea. But it doesn't dawn on you how weird it is that a man in his 40s or 50s has to constantly talk about it in public.
Yeah. I also you mentioned 19. There's the Coraline bit where he's talking about, these 18, 19, 20-year-old girls will come up. And it's like, you would notice that, Neil Gaiman, huh? You would notice that. And they're like, oh, you found this when you were 12, weren't you? And all of it is just like, it comes off as so skeevy. You're just so gross, dude. Ugh.
Yeah, no, that obsession with 12-year-old own this. That's weird.
Like, oh yeah. I mean, there's no pedophilia, so just on record, we're not slandering or libeling or whatever. Just, it's a pretty common step, okay, from rape to pedophilia. That's all.
Well, and it's oddly similar to a Kevin Smith quote as well.
Oh damn!
Do you know the Kevin Smith Comic-Con quote?
No, maybe, but not off the top of my head.
So there's a movie made by Morgan Spurlock about Comic-Con, and in the credits they shove this interview with Kevin Smith, and he goes, "Yeah, you see a lot of 15, 16-year-old high school girls dressed up as vampires, and dang, in a few years, she's gonna have some pretty crazy ideas."
No, Kevin Smith. Oh,
I'm paraphrasing, but I'll send it to you. I think it's actually worse.
I think I have seen it. I think I have. How many do you have more quotes, or we just because I have one quote that's horrible.
I have two more quotes.
Okay. You keep going, and then I'll fill in whatever I have after.
Yeah. So this is actually my last quote from the movie. My very last quote is not directly related to this documentary. So like we said, the documentary follows the course of this tour. We get to the last night of the tour. Gaiman is, of course, very exhausted, making a big show of that. And I didn't write it down verbatim, but he says, "I'm so tired. And now the Bacchanalia."
Oh my God! Yes. Yeah. Oh my God! You can't
Crazy.
Say that. No, yeah. There's I think I did. I didn't take the whole quote down, but he said, "The Bacchanalia we would have had if my wife were around is
disgusting."
And especially, I mean, knowing their whole deal, like, yeah, probably actually, but God damn, you can't. You're saying that to a camera. You gotta.
It's also the thing I hate from a certain kind of nerd where so many of their jokes come back to, "By the way, I have sex."
Yeah.
Like, you're an adult. So, I'm assuming you have a sex life, okay? What's this about?
Yeah. Well, the celebrity part of it interacts in a weird way too, because it's just like, yeah, it's still a whole thing. Yeah, I don't. Just shut up, dude. No, the one quote that I stared wide-eyed for a minute about, he was describing his own as he was coming up in comics and entering comics, and he described himself as having a monstrous self-certainty really only found in people who go on to conquer the majority of the civilized world. Yeah,
that is a bizarre quote.
What
that
a
is
crazy
a weird
thing to
one.
say. Yeah. And I don't know, because I think a lot about, and there's another quote he said about we're all cartoon running off from one mesa to the other mesa, and if you look down, you fall. You can't look down. And writing is about not looking down, because if you look down, you realize they're just words. And I think I have a lot of that, right? I have a lot of who are we to be talking about something? Who am I to write something? Who am I to tell a story?
Yeah, that's not an inherently bad quote from Gaiman right there.
No. But the interaction of the two, it just more and more like somebody to be on the level of Gaiman, to seek that level of fame, to leverage your skill, your genuine skill, into celebrity status. again, those two interact to just demonstrate that attempt at that leap, you know, that he lived to attain that. It's just like this movie constantly puts that on display. You know, it's constantly showing his interest in being famous just as much as his interest in being a writer. Even while he's whining, there's a point where he's whining. He's saying, this tour, what I'm doing is I'm signing books and I'm talking to fans, but I'm a writer. The job I do is writing. I'm not writing. It's just like, okay, your job is being celebrity and you're doing that. So do your job. Shut up, you limey bitch.
So, I'm glad you mentioned that, you know, the idea about like the fame being more important than like the accomplishment of the art itself. And, you know, there is a certain kind of narcissistic writer who, when they talk about what's important to them in writing, you start to notice that they don't talk about other people as much.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure there's interviews with Gaiman that disprove what I'm saying, but this documentary in itself supports that, right? And that's enough for me to say this. And I'm sure there's other interviews where this happens, where he's not talking about what other writers influenced him. He's not talking about the values in the writing and what he wants to impress upon culture. You know, even the make good art is not saying anything about, you know, the famous valedictorian speech or whatever that is.
Yeah.
It's not saying anything about like how to stand up for your community or taking care of the planet or whatever.
Yeah. Or just, like who he inspired either.
You're right. It's just make good art. Like make the thing because it is this object of quality. And the last thing I'll say about, you know, relating to other people is I don't believe there's a single word said in this documentary about the artists who made his comics so big.
No, wait. There's my favorite, one of my favorite things that happens in this movie is with Sam Keith. Sam Keith comes up. They're describing the first time they met. Sam Keith comes up. He's like, "How you feel about that Sam Keith guy?" And to get his opinion, to get Gaiman's opinion, which like doesn't really say anything, but that's it. Yeah, that's the only substantive thing about another artist besides Terry Pratchett, which, you know, like, again, but
he owes his career to Terry Pratchett.
Yes, exactly. It's crazy. It's crazy. You know, like so little. There's people talk about the cover of Sandman 1.
Yeah.
I don't even think they attribute it to anybody, though. I don't think they just say,
I don't think they ever say so Dave cool. McKean.
No, it's like on the cover, obviously. But yeah, no, that's such a good point. I didn't really think about it. I mean, it's a documentary about him, but the fact that he doesn't think of his efforts as collaborative, besides when it comes to Terry Pratchett, is another example of his awfulness.
Well, it's the brand versus the individual again. You know, like that's Neil Gaiman, the brand, overtaking Neil Gaiman, the individual.
Yeah.
My last quote, and if you think of anything else, feel free to throw it in. But my last quote I wanted to relate to this whole overview of this documentary is a quote from David Goyer.
Oh, shouts. Okay.
Yeah. So I'm including this because, again, I was just astonished that there was so little reaction from almost any of the subjects in the film. Like I said, Colleen Doran, she shows up in this for like 10 seconds with a very nothing statement. I think she just says like, yeah, he's a good looking guy. Cut to the next one. Very odd. You know, she made a statement that is, you know, has some merit to it, right? But just nothing from anybody. Goyer, who I think he's directly involved with the creation of Sandman on Netflix.
Okay, that makes sense.
This is an interview from within the last 2 years. He says, "I can say personally, I had never glimpsed any of this. When the accusations first came out, we were 3 weeks from finishing filming season 2. We were far down the path. Neil was not as involved in season 2 as he was in 1. Obviously, it's complicated. I have tremendous respect for women that come forward in those situations. It's concerning, but I know that Netflix at the time felt, God, we spent 2 years making this thing. There's all these actors and writers and directors involved that if we didn't air it, wouldn't be fully compensated. And so we just decided we're going to let this work speak for itself. But I'd be crazy to say it wasn't weird.
That's pretty awesome, actually.
It's crazy statement to make.
Yeah, it is. I think, but I do think collaborative art, those are, they complicate canceling, like, even creators at the head of the thing, you know. And I'm
right,
not
like,
saying
he is addressing that other people need to get paid. Like, that's good that he's doing that. Yeah.
No, and I mean, I think it's even probably smart PR wise, maybe not what a PR company would tell you, but like smart PR wise to relegate it only to how it affects your life, you know, where it's like, I'm not going to talk about this in a broader sense of the societal sense. Like, that's too big. I'm going to talk about the Netflix show that I'm involved in and how we even felt it was weird to like be doing this, but like, we're gonna, it's a bizarre statement though. It's crazy.
I think what's so weird about the statement is, like, you know, I do, for as much as I despise Goyer, I like that he is centering people who need to get paid for working on this. Like, that's important. But the way he half-heartedly attempts the victims to be centered is so strange. Like, the very first thing he says is, personally, I never glimpsed any of this. Like, that's so weird, because it's almost like he's saying, it's like, what, did you think I was going to assume that you were like, what? Like, why did you phrase it that way?
Well, and I mean, it is Goyer.
Yeah.
So...
And then just him saying at the very end, I'd be crazy to say it's not weird. It's like not what you say.
Yeah.
You know, odd guy, dude.
He's just dude living life, man. Like, I don't know. That's like, it's almost a really human statement though. And like, it's crazy because I'm like, you know, I'm going through my emails and seeing how many stupid Substack newsletters I'm like subscribed to for some reason, and I'm just like, why are you still doing this? Like, to all of these people on Substack, right? Like, not a single one of you need to keep using Substack. I don't understand, and nobody has any interest in even putting out a bad PR statement about that, or like whatever. There's a million different things that happen with celebrities now where it's genuinely like you said at the beginning, it's just people will forget if we just don't say anything, and if you say something, people are going to remember that you said something, right? And if you say something wrong, then now everybody just remembers that you said something wrong. And I almost appreciate that Goyer statement, because it's like, well, it wasn't perfect, but it doesn't sound like he ran it through ChatGPT and then 2 different PR companies before he said it. Well, maybe that is what it sounds like, but
and no, I completely agree with you, and I'm reassessing my stance on it, and I think that's all a very good point. It is dumb, no, but you're right, and it's human, and it's still saying something, which is just so gross with how many of these people still follow the guy on Instagram and have made zero public statements.
Yeah, and it's I don't know, it's and all of that too is the kind of thing of, I mean, he has such a celebrity following in that it is celebrities following him too.
Yeah.
Which is the almost worst thing, you know, because I think a lot about the process of canceling and like what we do post canceling, right? Because like so far what we've seen is only failure with cancellations, more or less. Either they end up just back in their same position with the same amount of power, and they had zero consequences really, besides like a year or 2 of missed work, maybe, which I guess that's consequences. Or like, we don't really know, and we don't know if they worked to fix things or anything like that, and it's not our job to police that stuff either, or nobody's been assigned the job to police that stuff. So maybe somebody should police it. But then it's like Jason Latour is doing his Kickstarter, very successful Kickstarter, right? Funded in minutes or whatever, and he's gonna make tens of thousands of dollars off of it. But it's like he's not working for a major company, right? It's a Kickstarter. We have no idea of the last 5 years of what he did besides making comics, right? He just put his head down and started plugging away on making comics. So like we have no idea if he's still like being a drunken pest who continues to like what's the word, neg at women and like annoy them and also like attempt at assaulting them and stuff like that. We have no idea what's going on or what amends he's done. And so it's like, well, how do you feel about that? I don't know what you're like, and it's just such a disorganized thing.
Well, I think it's, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, go ahead.
I think, you said we don't have a responsibility to police what comes after. And I don't know, to a certain extent, I feel like there is a certain amount of entitlement people deserve, because a lot of this type of behavior happens in corporate settings, but because so much of art is in this weird independent contractor world with already so little rights for workers, it's this labor issue, right? Like,
yeah,
if you're someone who has a stake in not being abused or doesn't want to exist in a culture of abuse, you need these corporations to do something, right? And in this world of commercial art, success equals legitimacy. So if I was someone who had stakes in working for Marvel, if I was an artist, or if I was abused, if I knew someone who'd been abused, if I have a shred of decency and I don't want anyone to be abused in these settings, I do need some kind of statement from the people like the Latours or the Gaimans themselves. I do need a statement from Marvel or DC or Netflix, right? And the fact that there is so little public follow-up would make me nervous about how these corporations handle these situations going forward.
Yeah. No, that's all. And that's why I was like, it's not that it's not our job to police things. It's that the job of policing the thing, I would like a better word, of supervising, which is just also a cop, but whatever. The act of supervising the situation isn't assigned, and it's not, we don't know how to do it also. You know what I mean? And on top of that, it's the thing of, I honestly, at this point, don't really expect the tour to go to work at a company at this point, because why would he? He's already been paid what he needs to live now,
Yeah.
And so it's a thing of now, I mean, asking Kickstarter to change their policies is going to backfire in some way, whatever, right? Like, all that stuff is more complicated. It's more complicated. And so like, yeah, the real thing is it's his responsibility to address things, right? And if he refuses to do so, then like, yeah, he's a piece of shit. Cool. And that, like, the answer could be as simple as that. But it's also that, like, he could just say anything, right? And so I don't know. It's like, why do you trust these guys? And then it all just really comes back to the thing of like, well, if you're a piece of shit, like, there's no reason you deserve a platform. Like, you don't deserve to have a job in the arts just because you're good at it.
Right.
And then that also kind of comes around to like, yeah, but if he's selling his shit on Kickstarter and people buy it, then that's, there you go. I guess I just don't worry about it. But it's still just kind of all part of the conversation. And like, I don't know. Warren Ellis crawls out of his hole and writes a comic in 2027. It's like not going to be surprising. In other words,
no, I don't think any of these people will ever completely go away. And it's like that would have been a consolation prize, right? Like it what would be optimal is they make right with the victims. What would be tolerable is if they disappeared forever and just, lived with their savings, because they can do that. They're in a position to do so. But, there's preferable, there's tolerable, and there's inevitable. And what's inevitable is they all come back in some form without having made something right.
Yeah. Yeah. So rest in piss, Neil Gaiman, when you die. You dumb.
I have one more thing to say about the movie itself. It's not a quote from the movie, but it's the title itself. And something I didn't really get into earlier was that I was something of a Gaiman fan. I never got into Sandman. I think even when the book was really big and I could have read it, even then I thought it was a little odd that the character had such a physical resemblance to Gaiman.
Yeah.
But I've always loved Norse myth. So his American Gods and his Norse mythology books were really impactful for me, and I respected him for that. So with that said, I think like so many former fans of him, there is a sense of betrayal, and that dream dangerously title of the film hits really different. It is that sign of betrayal, because for him, dream dangerously is so vile. It's like Neil Gaiman, dream dangerously. Harvey Weinstein, dream dangerously. These guys wanted to get to the top,
but dream also. Yeah, you're so right.
Right, and then there's the character dream, but I think I think so many people who got into Neil Gaiman's works wanted to be artists themselves, and for me growing up and even now, there's a part of me that wonders how accepted or liked or legitimate my own art will ever be to other people. Will it ever be successful enough that I can get some amount of acceptance or even compensation for it, right? And so it does feel like, dream dangerously, it is kind of scary and dangerous to do this. I am a little bit deluding myself into being an artist. And so my point is that dream dangerously has a certain profundity to it, but then it's so disgusting and corrupt when it's your dream dangerously was become Alexander the Great or whatever you were talking about, that one quote that you were referencing earlier, Keigen.
Insane person.
Yeah. It's genuine danger for you. It's a very different sense of danger than I was imagining.
You want to run this? That's what you're trying to do? Damn, bro. That's not what I'm trying to do, man. I'm trying to make a pot or two out of clay. That's exactly. My art. I don't know about that. No, yeah. It's really to get to that level of fame, you have to be just motivated by that adoration more than anything.
Yeah.
Which is I've said this before, if you want actual leftist art, you got to find it on Patreon or itch.io or buried in YouTube, not on the algorithm. You're not going to find it. You're not going to find it from Vertigo. Truly, this stuff none of this was geared toward actual anarchist thought. You even look at Alan Moore's stuff, and homie's been an anarchist for 40 years of his life. I think it's definitely post Watchmen. I think he had solidified on being an anarchist in political thought, and none of his major work is doing that, because he was writing for DC. That's not where we're gonna get the stuff that good stuff. And so it is always, if you're looking at those mainstream artists, it's yeah, dude, at best it's gonna be centrist in political thought. Basically, there's some stuff, there's some gems, but
Watchmen is a great example because I think it does have pretty coherent, cogent left-wing politics, right?
Mm-hmm.
But anything you want to say about that is swallowed up by the noise and the phenomenon of the Watchmen brand. It's why he disowned it. I think at the time he's like, hey, this is a kind of this is a disruptive work. I hate that term, but I can't think of anything else. This is something that is different from all the other stuff on the stands. Like, I have something to say here about how the superhero media relates to the rise of fascism in Reagan America. And I think even at the time he's like, but I'll go on to make other works and maybe better works if I'm lucky. The fact that it went through such a debacle, that it became such a brand itself, speaks to exactly what you're saying, that Vertigo was not revolutionary in that sense. Like, Vertigo as a brand was associated with like truly transgressive and progressive ideas, but then you look at it all and it's like, this is just more IP slop.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that was Neil Gaiman's Dream Dangerously.
I think
what did we learn today?
Than the runtime of the film.
Well, I mean, there is so much to say about Gaiman himself. And we couldn't get into the whole article here, but we're assuming you've read it, or at the very least you believe it. If you haven't read it,
it's on archive.
Go read it. If you're a freak who made it this far and had any sort of skepticism about the article, get out of here. We don't want you. I should have said that much earlier in the episode.
Yeah. You're stupid, and I'm happy you listened to this whole thing, and now I get to call you stupid for your beliefs.
Yeah. Like we both said, this likely won't become a series, but hey, if you really like this kind of thing and there's another artist or writer you want us to look at, I could do it. I agree with you, Keigen, that cancellation is a fake thing. It's such a loaded term to begin with. But if there was an artist who, I think artists who get away with assault are intriguing subjects. There's a lot to say there, and artists and writers who said some really weird racist things, I think, are intriguing subjects as well. But I don't necessarily want to make this a recurring feature. I'm not seeking that, because watching this documentary was pretty stomach turning.
Yeah, no, it was. I mean, it's weird because this is a good example of one of these things where we do have like a good amount of documentation to be able to talk about it. Like, I would never want to do a Chris Brown one. But that would be having to sift through like legal documents, and that I don't want to do something like that.
Chris Brown, Dream Dangerously,
the Kick Dangerously. What a piece of shit! But it made it very easy that there was a documentary fawning about Gaiman. I feel like a Joss Whedon one might be weird.
Oh, that's the documentary I talked about with the Kevin Smith quote. He's one of the central figures, the Morgan Spurlock documentary. Okay,
well, I'm not saying we'll do it, but that one would be doable.
That one is crazy, dude. I'll just send you my Letterboxd review that you'll get the idea. So this was vile, but very, very eye-opening. I think if I had watched this when it came out, I would have found Gaiman completely charming. And, I know everything about him now, or everything that's, I don't think there's much more that can be revealed aside from more victims. So I find it really appalling. But like you said, Keigen, even if we didn't know these facts, watching it at this stage in our lives, it's like, oh, there is something wrong with this man.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, don't watch this. We covered it for you.
Yeah, absolutely. It is on Tubi, though. So
yeah, shouts Tubi. Before we get out of here, we absolutely need a palate cleanser. So what better time than to rip open the Taste Baker's
Grab Mag.
I got muffins, I got croissants.
Okay, shot. That sounds good.
Taste maker.
Good
no, taste. I can't say this word. No.
This is all staying in. Let's keep it in.
I was about to say taste breaker.
Oh no, that's not right.
Taste maker's grab bag. See, this is why Land's job is not easy, and he's not very replaceable.
That's true. Yeah, can't do it.
Taste maker's grab bag. Yeah, so this is where we talk about things we have enjoyed and do not make us want to throw up. Like having to watch Neil Gaiman talk about, oh, my owie elbow, oh, my elbow, my wrist.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what it's about. That's crazy.
All right, what do you got, Keegan?
I'll go first. Okay, wait. I have Kickstarters that are coming up that I think should be said because this will come out.
Yeah, plug that.
Some of them are already going to plug, or I mean, some of them are already going to drop when this episode comes out, which I don't even really know when this episode comes out. So just keep an eye out for some of these. One is, I think it's Sharp Knife, good old Artyom Trakinov art. So it's gonna be good as shit. Yeah, Sharp Eye. It's the sequel to First Knife, which is also part of the whole Grobus verse stuff. So, which is a whole bunch of nonsense if you haven't. But just keep an eye out on Kickstarter. It's Artyom doing some art for Sharpest Knife. Half Blood by Ibrahim Mustafa. I'm a big Ibrahim fan at this point. I've read his last like 3 or 4 graphic novels. Have been keeping up. This is so like I'm a fan and I would be reading anything he wrote and drew no matter what. But this feels like the first one that the pitch is something I would pick up regardless of his name. It seems extremely cool. I think it might be launching September 1st. So if it's September, go over to Kickstarter, look up Half Blood. It's by Humanoids also. So get that. And then there's another one that also, this is one of my grab bag recommendations, which is why I'm talking about it. Matt Emmons, Those That Inherit the Earth. Emmons is awesome. I love his art. He is, I think all his stuff technically is like one story. It's kind of like Hellboy, where it doesn't really matter that it's linked, but it is. This one is going to be about a possum and a lady protecting the possum in a post-apocalyptic wasteland. It looks gorgeous already. And my actual grab bag one for him is Council of Frogs. Story about a very small frog who has to journey to find a wizard to save his people. Frog doesn't talk. It's so good. It's so freaking good. People had been freaking out about this book for quite some time. And I didn't buy it from him until he did another Kickstarter. And then I finally read it. It's so fun. It's just this little frog guy. It's a little frog guy with a little frog flower hat fighting things. So when the new Kickstarter drops, when Those That Inherit the Earth Volume 1 comes out, buy that one and get Council of Frogs along with it. He did another book, Daystar, that I haven't read yet, but I do own. I'm on board though for whatever this dude does. Council of Frogs was awesome. Love that book about the little frog guy, and I'm sure the possum one is going to be just as good. So that's one for my grab bag that goes along with all the Kickstarters that I will be paying money for. My other grab bag, I restarted Friends at the Table, the actual play podcast focused on smart world building, fun interactions between good friends. I restarted it with Autumn of Hyron, and it's so good. It's so good. Like, I think actual play podcasts, they're extremely nerdy. They're dorky as hell. But also, I think the way I listen to them is more like a radio drama, and that's why I like them. It's just kind of like something to listen to. It's still storytelling. It's a narrative. Autumn of Hyron, restarting it is really fun though, because the audio quality is really bad and the editing is really bad, and it's crazy what happens in 10 years on a podcast. Like, they all get so much better at everything. So yeah, I'm restarting that, and I hadn't plugged Friends at the Table in a while. Plus, Lan isn't here, so he's not going to make fun of me for it until he listens and edits. So, Friends at the Table, Autumn of Hyron. It's just where it starts.
And, he'll edit, and then you two can send each other death threats.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, this whole time you were talking, I was looking up these Matt Emmons books.
They're awesome.
Sorry, Matt Emmons. Yeah, this frog book is rad. I would love to read
it's so
this.
Good. Yeah, I think he keeps the frog book in print because it's been really popular. But I know, like, I bought them all on his last Kickstarter, and I'm just like, yeah, I'm in the bag. This is great. That book is awesome. Like, the frog stuff is cool, but there's other cool stuff in it. It's really good.
Yeah, I mean, I continue to appreciate anyone who can draw animals well, in any capacity, but especially for like storytelling purposes, because there's so much to it, and they move so much differently than people, and their shapes are different. Speaking of which, you recommended in an earlier episode the Crypto the Superdog series from DC, and I picked up an issue. It was really fun.
Yeah, I like it a lot. I haven't read the third one yet. It's a great book, though. It's my favorite thing Ryan North has written. Like, yeah, I love that book.
And then my other recommendation, I am going to recommend more IP slop. I'll let Keigen be the indie best boy today. I can't believe I'm saying this, but I'm going to recommend Thunderbolts.
No way. I saw your Letterboxd review. Oh my gosh. That's awesome.
It is a hot... Yeah, I mean, it is a hot mess, and I'm very much emphasizing the caveat here. I'm recommending it. I enjoyed it. If someone watched it and said that sucked, they would get no argument from me. Okay?
Yeah.
I'm not here to be like, Marvel finally did it. But they did finally do something, and that's why I'm recommending it. And they got some really great stunt work for this one. My whole thing about stunt work is it's such a choreographed dance. You have the choreographer, pardon the pun, but there's the choreographer, there's the performers, there's the director, the cinematographer, the editor, there's the lighter, the lighting. Like, it all has to come together in a way to sell you on this action. And it stumbles in places, but there's a few parts that really sing. So I'm just glad that Marvel can actually do the thing it's supposed to do, which is action.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's great. I don't know. I forgot to watch it is the real answer. Like, this whole time I just keep, I missed it at the cheap theater. I missed it at whatever. Now it's on Disney Plus, so I'm like, it's probably really easy to watch on Disney Plus legally.
The theater angle is the whole thing, because I did find myself a few times going, dang, I kind of wished I had seen this in theaters.
Yeah, I like a theater watch just like improves the movie no matter what the movie is.
Yeah.
Partly just because it's like, I'm going to pause it at home and go piss. Like, I'm going to exit the film. Like, it's going to happen.
I can look at my phone now.
Yeah. This was too boring. And it's like, sometimes a movie is a little boring for like 5 minutes in a theater.
Yeah.
And then I'm critiquing the movie, though, instead of like looking at. Yeah, exactly. Which is more fun. So yeah, no, that's a whole thing. But no, I read your whole thing because I was like, oh, what the hell? Let's go. So I'm excited about you liking Thunderbolts, even though I haven't even watched it and have no real opinion about it yet.
I mean, very bold of Marvel to say, here's a movie about a bunch of characters you don't remember or care about.
It's so funny. Well, besides Bucky, how dare you? How dare you? That's my boy Sebastian Stan. God, every time, it is Sebastian Stan.
For that reason alone, you'll like it, because they finally remembered, oh yeah, Bucky can be really cool. And he was not cool since Winter Soldier.
He's one of the best actors they've ever hired, and they don't know how to use him at all. It's infuriating.
Yeah, it's crazy how much they let someone as charismatic as him just fade into the background for 9 movies.
Yeah, it's They just got, yeah. Anyway,
fun. This episode was all about fun today.
Yeah.
So we're ending on a fun note. All right. Thanks for listening, and
keep on grappling.
That's our best one yet.
I needed someone to mess it up.